Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome back to our continued look at JU-87 Stuka Ace from Lock and Load Publishing. Now in our previous episode, we flew the inaugural mission of Leutnant Shultz, who performed admirably, taking out a railroad complex deep inside the heart of Poland. It's time for Lieutenant Shultz's second mission. Can he do it again? Let's find out. So we're looking at the pilot campaign log for Leutnant Shultz after his first mission in Poland. Now the first mission, just to recap, was a wild success. Leutnant Shultz executed a brilliant diving run, the risky pull-up, but he destroyed the railroad outside of Warsaw, giving him 6 victory points. So our question right now, as we start into our second mission, is do we want to spend any of these victory points on upgrades? Now the game gives you lots of ways to improve your pilot's career. I'm just going to run through a few of these just to give you an idea of the scope and scale of this. We could spend victory points to increase the number of cards in our hand with our action cards. So we start with 5 of these in our hand. If we spend 15 victory points, we can increase it to 6. If we spend 40, we can increase it all the way up to 7. Obviously, we don't have that many victory points, so that's not an option for us right now. We could spend 10 victory points to increase Leutnant Shultz's stamina from 5 up to 6 to a maximum up to 8. We don't have 10 victory points for that, so we're not going to do that either. We could spend victory points down here to give Leutnant Shultz some skills. And I think each one of these costs 10. Some of them, like quick reflexes, which is a +1 to pull up. This one looks particularly tempting to me. I kind of like that one. But that's one thing that we could do. However, we don't have enough victory points to do that yet either. The last thing we can do, well really 2 things, is we can spend victory points to add extra cards or replace some cards in some circumstances from the action deck. So there's a whole set of about 10 action cards that you can buy at these various victory point costs and add them into your deck. And that is actually what we're going to do right now. What I kind of want to do is to save up the victory points to get to 10, to get that quick reflexes, which is +1 to pull up, to develop that skill for Leutnant Shultz. But, however, this one seems to me like a no-brainer. This is a replacement card that costs 1 victory point. And what it does is we can take any one of the cards out of our current deck and put it in, replace it with this one. Now, if you recall, this right here is the card, the 0, that provides no benefits that Leutnant Shultz pulled on his pull-up. So this card could have actually killed him. So this is a no-brainer. We're going to spend 1 victory point replacing this card. We're going to throw this one out, get it out of the deck, put it back in the box, and we're going to put this one into the deck now. So Leutnant Shultz now has a little bit less of a chance of completely screwing up one of his stamina moves to no benefit. So I'm going to change that now, because what happens now, instead of having 6 victory points available, Leutnant Shultz now has 5 because we replaced it with that card. We're going to save the other 5 for the future, and let's drive on now and get ready for Leutnant Shultz's second mission. So the first thing we need to do, as before, we are in Poland flying our second mission out of 5 in this Polish campaign. We are going to draw a flight deck card to see which one of these missions we get. Now, we could get mission 5 again. I think if we do, for the sake of just this video series, I'm going to pick a different card. But let's see what we get here for this one now. We draw a 10. A 10 is mission number 4. So let's go take a look at that one. So here is a look at mission number 4 in Poland. Let's take a quick look at some of the parameters. Flight cards, approach or 2, return to base or 1. This is much shorter than the mission we had to the railroad, where we had to do 3 of each. So this one's closer to the front lines. Sorties is 1, our main objective, a bridge. I've pulled that card out. Here it is. Anti-aircraft fire. There is anti-aircraft fire present. It's got a rating of 0, which is low, but it's not a slash, which means there is anti-aircraft fire here. Victory points 1 for damage, 4 again if we can destroy it. Prestige value of 1. That's right, these are for the awards. So Leutnant Shultz has some prestige points on the line here. In order to get that, you have to destroy it. So that would be a nice objective. Now we have some variables down here that we'll take a look at as we start to do our bomb payout. But an interesting target for our second mission. Now we can see enemy presence is none, no support fighters for us either, so air superiority over the target here, so it should be a relatively uneventful run in terms of dogfighting and things like that. And then the objective card layout, we're going to have one searching card and one target reached. So I'll get this ready right now, and then we'll kind of set up some of the other elements of the mission and take a look. Like we did last time, I've created the objective card deck. There is one searching card and one target reached card, and I don't know what searching card is in there. That's randomly determined. So a 50% chance we'll find the target as soon as we reach our objective. 50% chance we'll have to look around for a while. Flight card deck is ready. I'll reshuffle it right before the start of the mission. I've put our bridge card up here as the target. We have 5 stamina ready to go. Enemy fighters is 0. Support fighters on the left here. Whoops, can't quite see that one. Is 0 as well. So we are set there. The 2 things we have left to do: determine the weather for the altitude card, and then we have to decide on our bomb payout, and then actually a third thing is we have to deal our action card deck. So let's come in now and decide our bomb layout here for this payload here for our B1 Bertha. So to determine our bomb payload, we want to kind of take a look at the specifications of the target here. Now, if we could carry a 1,000-pound bomb, we would get a +1 die roll modifier. But if you recall from the last mission, our B1 Bertha has a maximum payload of 500 kilograms. So we can't carry enough weight to be able to get that 1,000 kilogram bomb. So that's probably out. We could take the 500. However, if we look over here, once again, just like with the railroad, if we drop 3 bombs or more, we're going to get a +1 modifier to the die roll. So we want that. So based on that, let's go do our payload again. However, I do want to call attention to here, the general, there's a -1 to hit the bridge on this. So even with this +1 die roll modifier, there's going to overall be a -1 for it too. So it's going to kind of wash itself out here. The bridge apparently is a tough target to damage or destroy. So let's go do our payload now. Once again, like we did in the last mission, we're going to drop 2 50-kilogram bombs out on the wings there. So we'll put 50 on the right wing and 50 on the left wing, and then we're going to drop in our 250-kilogram bomb right on the fuselage here, giving us a total of 5 bombs. This is a very typical payload apparently for a Stuka. So we should be set there to get that +1 modifier when we make our attack on the bridge. Now let's go determine the weather. So as we're looking at the weather here, one thing I did want to point out is that it's possible for us to generate some secondary targets on the way to the main target or on the way back. So there's other things that we could have as targets of opportunity too. But back to the weather. We're going to draw a D6 card here, and we're going to determine what the weather is, hoping for a 1 to 5. We don't want a 6. And this is the D6 we got. So we get a 1. So alt card number 1, which is that good weather card. Let's take a look. Alt card 1 drops in at the weather here. Again, this is really clear, good day, nice shiny weather in Poland. Once we take off, we're going to drop the altitude marker on high, because that's where we go. We climb right up to high altitude. So our weather's done, our targets stay, we've got our payload. Now let's deal our action card deck. All right, so we're going to deal 5 cards. Now, last time we got real good cards. See, already we've got a 1 here. Now this is a 2 to the pull-up, which is nice, but it's not as good as that card where we had when we started out last time. I'll pick the other 4 and then let's take a look at them. So yeah, you may recall that I said we got a really good hand the last time we played, because look at the difference now. The last mission we had all 2s and this 1-3. This mission we have 1, 2, a 3. That goofy 0 card that's worth nothing to us, that's a terrible card to get. And then we have a 1 and a 1, and we don't really have anything with like a +3 on the pull-up or +3 options down here for some of the other. We have the +2 on the pull-up, which is okay. Our best card really is this kind of 3 that we can also use to ignore damage. But yeah, this is a much, much rougher day. So Leutnant Shultz is his karma a little bit down from the last mission, where he had such a blindingly brilliant hand in that first mission. But you know, you take what you're dealt, and we're going to deal with it. We'll move it. Leutnant Shultz is ready for the challenge. It's time to take off. Leutnant Shultz fires up the engines on his B1 Bertha, and we're all set to rumble down the airway. Now we're going to use this takeoff event check here. Again, we use a D12. 1 to 11, nothing happens. A 12 is bad news, because then we've had some kind of a problem on takeoff. Now we could, well no, we're just going to take this right here and see what happens. We get an 8 on our D12 number. So Leutnant Shultz is up in the air. We're going to move the altitude marker up to high altitude on our mission card here, and we are all set to go. So we are airborne. Now let's go to approach the target. We point the plane towards Poland. So Our Stuka is rumbling towards Poland, and if you recall on the mission parameters, we have to draw 2 approach cards and execute them in order to successfully come to our objective. So this is considerably shorter than our last mission, which was a 3. Let's see what we get for our first one, hoping for a nice, so we're going to draw the next card and then reshuffle. So I'll do that, and we get here, approach has absolutely nothing going on. Perfect, we like it. So we've picked our first approach card. Now I'll reshuffle the deck and then we will do our new ones here. Again, and I'm just putting the flight cards here. They go in the approach, they should be above, but just for the sake of video, I'm putting the flight card deck here. Second approach card. Hopefully we get another calm, nothing happens. Approach or return to base. Oh, that's not a nothing happens. So dense fog, we run into a patch of dense fog. We must land on a field waiting for a clear sky. Okay, so, and that involves a check of 4+. Now, this check here, if we fail it, we get -1 stamina. So we could play a card to influence this, but I think we're gonna have enough stamina anyway. So we're just going to do the check, 4+, and we're going to take it. If we get it, that's great. If not, we lose 1 stamina and we'll just pay the price. So dense fog grounds us, and Leutnant Shultz has to land in a field somewhere near the border of Poland. And let's see what we get. Hoping for a 4, 5, or 6. We get a 3. This is the first check that Leutnant Shultz has failed. So I'm going to take one of his stamina things here and we're going to chuck it away. His stamina is now down to 4. It started at 5. Okay. So all things considered, that could have been worse. We've now burned through our 2 approach cards. So we are at here, we've got the 2 down there. We are now above. In this one, I've actually checked on this one and clarified. You don't have to retake off or anything like that. It's just a simple check to see if you lose 1 stamina. So the fog clears, we're back up in the air. Our Stuka's heading towards the target and we have reached our objective area. So we've reached our objective, and we know that one of these 2 cards is reaching the target, one of them is searching. We're hoping we reach the target on the first try here, and we don't have any problems looking for the target. Searching. Oh, this is the same card we had last time, but it's enemy contact, and as we've talked about in the previous mission, there is no enemy presence. So this basically is just a searching card that doesn't really come to play in this Poland camp, at least in this mission that we're on right now. There is one Poland mission where there is enemy presence, and that would have triggered some kind of potential dogfight. So now we know what we're going to get here. Target reached. We are at our destination, and it is time for Leutnant Shultz to attack the bridge. Time to make our diving run. The first thing we need to do is Leutnant Shultz has to determine his release height. We actually this time are going to do the base release height because I think if we use this near one with the -1 to the pull-up, it's very likely, given the cards that we've got, that we're going to have a chance that we're going to crash after releasing the bomb. So rather than to risk that, we are going to use the base one. It's +1 to pull up. It will not give us a +1 to the release, but I'm hoping we can solve that on our own. Okay, so with that being, the next thing that we need to do, so we've selected base here as our target run here. I'll just put a little marker on that so we can remember that in case I forget. And now the next thing we need to do is to determine our dive. So this is a check. We need a 4 or greater. If we fail it, it's -2 on our release. So we want to make sure, if we can, we succeed at this. So we're going to roll a die. We need a 4 or greater. So I think what we're going to do here, we're going to have Leutnant Shultz burn through a ton of stamina here with the calculation that it's a really short return flight back home. So what we're going to do is we're going to use one of his cards in his hand to add the AP value, which is this 1 right here. So that's going to give us a +1, meaning that we need a 3 or greater. However, we're also going to have Leutnant Shultz burn a stamina, because you can do both of these things one time with each check. We're going to burn a stamina, and we're going to draw a random card from the top of the action card deck. Now, if we get a 2, we're in good shape. We get a 2. That's excellent. Good. The 2 or greater would have been fine, because now our die roll modifier is a +3. Our check is a 4 or greater. But there's no way that we can fail this, right? So we draw. We got a 3 for our card. 3 + 3 is 6. We have made a successful dive, so we avoid the penalties, the -2 to release. So a good dive by Leutnant Shultz. Next up, we come to the anti-aircraft fire phase. Now, our railroad didn't have any, but our bridge does anti-aircraft. It's a value of 0, so there's no plus modifiers to this. So it is moderately light anti-aircraft fire, but it's It's moderately light only if it misses your plane, right? So we have a D6 pull here on this. Now we had the plus modifiers if there's anything on the anti-aircraft target. We know that's a 0. We could spend 2 stamina to reduce get a -1 die roll modifier on this, but I think we're going to need our remaining 3 stamina for the bomb release and then the pull-up. So I don't want to do that. I want to make sure we have enough to release the bomb. So I think we're going to take our chances with a hit here. Now on a 1 to 4, there is nothing, no damage. On a 5 or a 6, it's -1 to our release, our bomb release. On a 7 or greater, it's -1 release, and then we take AA damage. But there's no plus modifiers here, so at the most, this light anti-aircraft fire is going to screw up our aim here. Let's see what we get. Hoping for a 4 or less. Gah! We get a 6. That's not good. Okay, so the anti-aircraft fire is heavy enough that it kind of jolts Leutnant Shultz's nerves here, giving us a -1 modifier to the release. Okay, so now we didn't get any damage though, so that's good, because there were no plus modifiers, right? Yep, okay, so that's good. Now if there were a plus modifier, that 6 would have led us to anti-aircraft damage, but we're fortunate there. So now we go to the next phase, which is the bomb release. Okay, so our bomb release check is a 4 or greater, minus release modifiers. There are no modifiers here that we've got except, because we were up the base height, so we don't have that +1 to release. We do have the -1 from the anti-aircraft fire. We made a good dive, so there's no penalty there. So it's a -1 check. So here we go. We're going to play our power card here, the 3. We're going to play our action point to get us the +3 modifier, and we're going to burn our 3rd stamina to add another card to get a little bit more. Now hopefully anything except a 0 should be good. We get a 2, excellent. So we have a +5 modifier, -1, so a +4. Once again, Leutnant Shultz, oh, he gets a 1. Lucky we did that. 1 + 4 is a 5, so we have hit the bridge successfully. Now we have to see if we do any damage on it, or if we get a good bomb release. I think that's success if we hit the target and do damage now. So burning up stamina, but Leutnant Shultz here puts his bomb on target again. So now let's figure out the chance that the bomb hit the target and actually did some damage. Just to recall, we're using 5 bombs, so we get the +1 modifier, but the target has a general -1 modifier as a whole, so those wash out. So it's a modifier of 0. Now there are cards that could allow us with the immediate effect to modify this, but we don't have any of those cards, so this is basically trusting our fates here. We get a +0. Now we need a 4 or 5 to damage it, a 6 to destroy it. 50% chance we come up with nothing here. We got lucky last time. Leutnant Shultz dialed up a 6. Let's see what he gets this time. 6 will give him some prestige too. Gah! Leutnant Shultz gets a 2. He missed the bridge completely, or it just like was a dud or something like that. Oh, that's disappointing. After all that pressure, Leutnant Shultz doesn't hit the target. The bridge remains unscathed. Okay, so now, however, the fun's not over yet. We have to pull up, right? And the pull up here is a check +4, -1 for each AA point, but there's 0. Our engine and everything like that is fine. We did do this base attack, however, so it's +1 to our pull up value, and we have this card right here that we can play not for its action point value, we're going to play it for its pull up value, which is a 2. So because we used a pull-up value of 2 and a base at a +1, and there is no other modifiers for it, we can just pick our card here, and we know we've got a +3 altogether, so we are going to be okay. We get a 4 plus a 3 is a 7. We do not crash on the pull-up, and Leutnant Shultz pulls away from the target, having very, very disappointingly missed his target, though. As we climb back up to altitude, we get new cards, 2 ones, each for the engine power. Oh, that's the pull-up 3. That's one of the good cards. And then our other card is Evade 2, which would be, oh, that's a nice card, especially if we have any kind of dogfighting. So we get a 2 and a 2. We're pretty good on the way home should something happen, I think, here. We turn our plane now and head back for Germany. A disappointing run so far for Leutnant Shultz. So the return to base event here for Leutnant Shultz is relatively straightforward. We just need 1 flight card on the return portion here. Having said that, I don't want to jinx it because who knows what could happen here. Ooh, that's a lot of text. Okay, return to base. Fighter squadron involved in dogfight. Fighter squadron support decreased by 1. Okay, so that's fine. So that's whatever fighter we had with us, but there are none and there's no presence. So we're just going to come over here And we have the fighter squadron support level here, which is 3, 2, 2, 1. And I think decreased by 1 is by 1 level, is my understanding. So even though this is 0, there's a lesser 0. And that means that these are the kind of almost like die roll modifiers. So this brings us down to the bottom. So whatever fighters we had around, little of them were there, got pulled away to fight in a fighter squadron. So this really doesn't matter to us because they pull away and now we just come in and we land our Stuka safely. So our mission is complete. So once again, Leutnant Shultz lands his B-1 Berther unscathed. No problems whatsoever. We have yet to take any damage. Of course, a lot of that would come perhaps from dogfighting in enemy planes, and Poland's pretty easy in that regard. The anti-aircraft would have to be heavier than a bridge to hit us at this point, although there could be modifiers there. But yeah, so far so good in terms of taking damage to a plane, and neither our pilot, Leutnant Shultz, or our gunner are wounded. The plane's in perfect condition, so far so good in that regard. Mission is complete, but no damage, no victory points accrued for hitting the target. Let's take a look and see what our campaign looks like right now. So we've checked off the second mission now for Leutnant Shultz in Poland. He has 3 left in this Poland campaign. Victory points. No victory points because the target wasn't hit by Leutnant Shultz, and that assumes the formation doesn't get any points for it either there. So victory points stays at 6, victory points available stays at 5, and he missed that delicious opportunity to get a prestige point there. So a disappointing mission, despite doing everything right at the last second. Either the bomb just didn't have any impact or it just slid wide of the target, and Leutnant Shultz, a failure on that one. 1 for 2 though, not bad as a rookie pilot, I think. And that concludes Leutnant Schultz's second mission with us. And unfortunately, this will be the last look that I can do of the prototype of this game. I'm going to be sending the prototype on to another content creator to create some content about it. So I'll have to wait until I get the final version in order to be able to continue the career of Leutnant Shultz, or perhaps start a new one. But I think this would be a really fun thing to do, a full career on the channel. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. A couple thoughts. I do want to offer some thoughts on my play experience with the game so far. First up, I'm a big fan of this genre, so I am totally biased. I love this type of game where you take an individual pilot or an individual vehicle or a submarine or something like that on a career trajectory throughout the war. So I'm very inclined to like this. And there are kind of 3 things that I look for in a game like this that lead me to kind of say this is a good execution of this subgenre. The first thing I look for is variety. Is there a lot of kind of narrative spawning? Because if you're going to do 30, 40 missions with a pilot, things have got to be different, right? And this one feels like it really kind of does a ton of stuff in that regard. You know, the variety of the targets is there. You've got these cards that are going to generate all kinds of ones. And this is the European card, so some of the theaters have their own specific cards and things like that. All of the awards and the skills and the action deck cards that you can build into the weather and things like that. The bombing run, the depth of the mini games and stuff like that. I feel like there is just a tremendous amount of variety here to keep the campaign fresh as you're playing through it. The theaters too. I mean, there's just a ton of theaters. Some of them look very unique, and you got night missions and things like that. So I think this really hits it out of the park in terms of the home run, in terms of just the level of complexity and variety that's here. The second thing that I look for in a game like this is agency. A lot of people mention these games don't feel like the player has a ton of agency and the story and the missions are on rails. And I think there has been a ton of effort in this game to have agency for the player. In a couple of ways. One, your in-mission agency, where you've got those action cards and the way you spend stamina. Those are super creative. Like, where are you going to use that stamina because you have a limited amount? Now in Poland, these missions are kind of easy, so it felt somewhat straightforward that we could burn through the stamina at all the key places. But as you get into missions with 2 sorties and longer missions, and you get more complicated missions, and you're going to get dogfights and planes trying to shoot you down, you're really going to have to be judicious in how you spend that stamina. And the action cards, with their 3 different types of action cards, I think really present a really interesting decision matrix as you're approaching a target and doing different things, because you can use them for their action points, you can use them for their special kind of effect there, or you can use them for that immediate effect. So there's just a lot of ways you can use those cards. The second big way that the game has agency is in the way you develop the career of the pilot. You can add cards to the action deck, you can replace cards in the action deck, you can develop skills, you can add stamina, you can add 1 more card to your hand or 2 more cards to your hand. And that's just a few of the ways. You're going to get rank, you're going to get more pilots, so there's just a ton of stuff. Gunner skills, another way. So there's a lot lot of ways that you have agency over your pilot's career in that meta scale to be able to influence their career and change things. And that's, again, a big element of the agency here. You're really going to be able to influence your career and try lots of different things. The last thing I look for is the right level of detail. Like a mission should feel maybe 20, 30, 40 minutes, maybe something like that, sometimes shorter. Is that level of detail in a mission right, so that the missions aren't going to take like 2 hours? Because then a campaign's going to take forever. And this one feels about right. It feels like missions are going to be anywhere from, shorter ones, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, longer ones, maybe 20, 25, 30 minutes. But then you're going to have maybe 30 of those in a career, maybe a little bit longer. So you get that idea. I mean, it's going to be a hefty campaign, but it's contained in this mission format that feels like the whole scope is going to be just an amazing story, especially if by any chance you could actually make it to the end of the war. I'm sure the end of the war is going to be really difficult. So yeah, big thumbs up from what I've seen so far. I mean, the only thing I haven't been able to do is to play deep into a campaign to check like the difficulty levels. Does it feel like the missions and the different theaters are the right difficulty over the scope and scale of your whole, the arc, if you would, of your whole campaign? That's something I haven't been able to check yet. So that's a question mark that I still have. And that one you really have to play deep into a campaign to get a sense for how that's going to play out. But judging from what I can see so far, it looks very promising, and I'm really excited to take a career all the way through the war, at least try to until we fail and things like that. Let me know if you have any questions about this. I'll put a link to a couple other videos in case you want to watch something else. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm very much looking forward to the final version of this one coming out. Take care, everybody. Bye.